Happy Tuesday, Kings and Queens. We're going to jump into our Unit 1, Lesson 1, Day 2 that we started yesterday, and it's going to be a complete follow-up of what we started on Monday. So again, our classroom norms are to have your cameras on, your mics muted, and ready to chat. So let's jump right into the lesson. So, what do I need for today's class? Remember, it's important that you're actively participating in order to get classwork credit. Today, we're going to do most of our work in our journals, the chat, and there will also be moments where you guys will share out to your classmates. Again, be sure to be engaged and participated to get graded for today's lesson. And as needed, you will need your 3 or 5 subject spiral notebook, your pencil, and a highlighter. So in your Math 7 Spiral notebook for today, put today's date. Today is Tuesday, September 15th, 2020 at the top of the page, and you can label it page 2 at the bottom of your page. We still have the same objective and standards for yesterday, so there's no need to copy those down again. So once again, we're continuing our conversations about scaled copies. We are now on day 2 of this lesson. So let's jump into our engagement. But before we do that, let's remind ourselves of the definition that we talked about of scaled copies. Remember, yesterday we specifically said that a scaled copy is a copy of a picture that may change in size, but not necessarily in shape. So if I look at my engagement, it says, are any of the figures B, C, or D scaled copies of the figure A? And if I look at this example, figure A is my original, and it says explain how you know. So we're going to take a pause in the video right here, and I need everybody to put in the chat which one of these options are scaled copies of A, which is my original, and then also in the chat explain to us how you actually know that. Now that you had some time to kind of think about this problem, it's time to reveal the answer. So only figure C is a scaled copy of figure A. Specifically in figure C, if you look here, the length of each segment of the letter L is twice the length of the matching segment in A. So for instance, if I look at this top part of L and A, it's only 1 unit here. When I look here, it was multiplied by 2. It's now twice or 2 units. So if I look at the bottom portion of the L, it's 3 units. So if I take twice of this 3 units here, this one should be 6 units. So if I check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the length of this bottom part is twice the length of my original. And if I check this longer side, it'll be twice the length here, and also all of the other portions of the L. So once again, the only answer is letter choice C. If we want to explore B, in B, none of the segments are double the length. And in figure D, some of the segments are double in length and some are not. So the block letters in B and D are not enlarged evenly. So the only scaled copy of my original diagram was letter choice C. So now we're going to jump into a little bit of an activity that's going to continue the work that we've been doing. So our elaboration for today is going to be called pairs of scaled polygons. So what we're going to do is match polygons that are scaled copies to one another, and then we're going to collectively check our answers when we're finished, and then we're going to select one pair of those answers to explore a little bit further. So here are all of the letter options that we have that we want to match up. The questions that is posed before us says, which polygons are scaled copies and how do you know? So let's take some time to write down in your journals which ones you think are matches with each other, and then jot down why. Once you do that, I'm going to ask that you all share in the chat what are some of the matches that you think and why you think that. If you also want to share amongst your classmates, after we pause the video at this point, you guys can unmute yourselves and share. So once again, which polygons are scaled copies and how do you know? So again, in your journals, Write down which ones you think are pairs. You may say something like, A and B are scaled copies of each other, so we're going to put those together. And then just jot down why you think that. And we want to come up with a match for all of these. Once you finish writing it down in your journal, go ahead and put it in your chat and then also unmute yourself and share with your classmates. We're going to pause the video here so that you guys can do some work for about 3 minutes and then share out. So now that you guys had some time to work, discuss amongst your classmates, let's figure out what the actual answers are. So here are the correct pairs. Let's compare to what you guys wrote down in your journals. So the following polygons are scaled versions of one another. So our first set was A and C. Hopefully you can see the similarities here. It looks like A and C are twice the length of each other. If I look at letter choice B and D, these are also scaled copies of each other. This also looks like twice. Letter choice D is twice letter choice B, so each side was multiplied by 2. If I look at G and J, these are also scaled copies of each other. Letter choice E and I are correct pairs. And last but not least, F and H are also correct pairs. If I look here, between F and H, this one was increased by more than 2 times. Now that we know what the correct pairs are for each one of our polygons, I want everybody to, in their mind, figure out which pair that you specifically want to talk about. Do you want to talk about A and C, B or D, or any of the other 3 that are presented here? I just want you to choose one pair that we're going to write about in our next activity. So now, again, we're going to do this on page 2 of our journals. We're going to write about it. So the first question that I want you guys to answer is to select one pair of polygons that you matched. So in your sentence, tell me which pair of polygons did you match? The second question that you're going to answer is when you looked at your polygons, what did you check for? The third question that I want you to answer, again, we're doing this in our journals, is how many sides did you compare before you decided that the polygons were or were not scaled copies of each other? And then last but not least, did anyone check the angles of the polygons? Why or why not? We're going to pause the video at this point and let's take about 3 minutes to answer these 4 questions in our journals. Once you guys have finished writing, I would love for 1 or 2 of you guys to just share what it is that you thought and that you wrote. Now let's further our discussion. Hopefully, when you guys were writing about the answers to these questions, you thought about the general shape and the side lengths of your polygons. Remember, 2 sides can be enough to tell that polygons are not scaled copies of each other. But remember, all sides are needed to make sure a polygon is a scaled copy. Okay, the sides of the polygons all fall on grid lines, so that might have been some other key things that would have helped us figure out our matches. So let's further talk about it. We want to make sure that we explain how you know it's a match. Let's listen carefully to our peers and see if we disagree with their thinking. So here are some sentence stems again to further our conversation. We can say that I agree or disagree with somebody because, and I know that these are matches. I don't think that those are matches. I might still be confused about something, or I can ask one of my peers, what do they think? This is our time to think broadly and identify and articulate questions that we have amongst each other. So let's take some time. You can either put some of your thoughts in the chat. Before we only had about 1 or 2 students share out, but now let's hear from about 3 or 4 more. What are some of your thoughts? What are some of your questions? What are some of the things that you agree or disagree with so that we can address them as a group? Let's pause the video here so that we can have a brief discussion. Now that we had that discussion, let's wrap up our lesson with this evaluation. Again, let's put in the chat, how are scaled copies different from figures that are not scaled copies? And then the second question that we want to answer briefly in the chat is, what specific information did you look for when determining if something was a scaled copy of an original? So again, my first question, how are scaled copies different from figures that are not scaled copies? So how do I know the difference? And then what specific information did you look for when determining if something was a scaled copy of an original? Let's put it in the chat, because some other answers from our other classmates might help us in the future when we're solving these types of problems. So we're going to pause the video here and take about 2 minutes to answer these two questions in the chat. Thank you all for sharing in the chat. Our mission is accomplished, but before we leave each other today, let's make sure that we wrap up appropriately. So, today was the end of our lesson 1. We talked about scale copies and what that means. Remember, tomorrow is Wednesday, so we will not meet together on Zoom, but you will have an assignment which we will talk about shortly. So, again, when we meet together on Thursday, we will be starting something new, but it's important that you complete the activities for today and tomorrow so that you can receive credit for your independent assignments. So, Tuesday, which is today, you have the Big Idea scavenger hunt due at 11:59 p.m. I know a lot of you guys tried to access that assignment yesterday, but realized that it didn't actually work. That's because the textbook wasn't assigned for you as of yet. So I want you guys to now go back and see if you can explore that scavenger hunt, and that'll be due at 11:59 p.m. All of the directions for that are in Google Classroom. It also tells you what you need to capture and how to upload the assignment. For Wednesday's assignment, you guys have an online textbook activity, which I will show you all in a second. You guys are going to go to lesson 5.6 in your e-textbook and complete page 217, which is the exploration activity 1A, 1B, and 1C, and that is due at 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday. So I will show you how to get to that in your ebook, and I'll also post a screenshot in Google Classroom so that you can also just answer the questions directly. You can do this work on a separate sheet of paper and then upload a picture of your work as well. So now let's navigate to Clever so that you can see how to access the textbook. So once you guys are in Clever, of course, your portal will look a little bit different than mine, but you're going to go to Big Ideas, Big Ideas Math. This is your textbook icon right here. I'm going to click on that, and you will have a dashboard. Once again, my dashboard might look a little bit different because I'm listed as a teacher, and yours will be a student. But you should be able to see an icon that says ebook. When I click on ebook, it's going to take you to a series of books. The one that you need to always remember is that you are the 7th grade modeling real life textbook, and it is red. And you want to make sure, of course, you click the appropriate copy. Down here is a Spanish version, but right here is your textbook, this red one right here. So when you click on it, it will be just like you have a normal textbook, and you can type in the page numbers right at the top, go to page whatever, but we want to go to page 217, and this is the activity that we're going to be completing. So if I zoom in, you're only going to be doing exploration 1 and just answering the questions for A, B, and C. It's telling you to work with a partner. However, you're going to do this individually, and then it's going to give you a set of questions, and you're just answering questions A, B, and C on a separate sheet of paper. So once again, you all have 2 assignments, one that's due today at 11:59 and one that's due tomorrow at 11:59. If you have any questions, please be sure to email myself or Mr. Spencer, and we will see you guys bright and early or live during your class time on Thursday. Have a great rest of your day.